Sweet, man.
We're live.
Episode 1, Loopy Human.
Episode 1, finally, after like
After 7
4
months or
months.
something.
Yeah, something like that. I think we started talking about this like back in February, March.
Well, man, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, me too, man. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, I want to start with a question since it's episode 1. What comes to mind for you with the title and phrase Loopy Human?
Loopy Human, man. It brings a lot, actually, I feel. Because if you think about it, like, what is Loopy? Loopy's like crazy, chaotic, a little weird, a little, it's a little out there. Whenever you're talking about somebody, you're like, that guy's like a little loopy, But I feel like it's like a good like metaphor for just like life in general.
Yeah.
Because life is weird.
Totally.
It's strange, it's out there. And to be somebody who is living life and being in the world, that's what it means to be. It's like it's being a vessel of the actual world itself and the craziness and interacting with the craziness.
Heck yeah. And kind of acknowledging that it's there and that it's part of humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's like, it's definitely all of that. And I think I also, like, coming from like music production, it's hard not for me to think of like loops, like, you know, using loops or making loops in a song. So like a lot of the first thing I'll do is like an 8-bar loop for a beat or a song. I don't know if it's for the chorus or a verse section yet, really, but it's just like, can I get a repeating loop that's cool that then I can copy and paste and build off of and take away and edit and stuff. And I think that kind of denotes, like, if I apply it to life and being a human, I think we're made up of a lot of loops. I mean, not just I think, right? There's just repeating cycles on big macro scales and on little tiny ones that are just, I mean, sunrise, sunset, like just over and over the same, processes, like our circadian rhythms and just like our rest cycles, our, all these things. And then habits, like that comes to mind for me. It's just loopy. We can have loopy habits, not just in the repetitiveness, but in the craziness. And so there's kind of that question for me with Loopy Human of why do we do the things we do? And also like what things are worth looping.
Right.
In some way. And then the other piece, I almost pictured like, if you look really close to a towel, I think it's called like loop spun or loop thread. It's a way, but if you look real close, it's actually a loop coming out and then going back in, and then a bunch of those together. So it kind of makes me think of like loopy, like some Celtic knot, just the way it's like everything's like interwoven.
Interesting.
As loopy, like loops connect to each other.
Right.
We use loop as like a loop as a fastener for things. I'm sure there's a basically infinite number of other ways too that'll come up the more we do.
And I feel like that's why like the name is so great, is because it, not only represents like what we think it means, but it can just mean so much more.
Yes.
To like anybody else who's like listening to this.
It's a little bit insurance of like, this is a big enough sandbox to go explore all the things we know we want to explore and has room for the things we don't even know are coming yet.
Right.
It's like a big enough container for that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question that, had COVID, and I don't remember if it was that. I think it was that week, needing to reschedule and stuff going on. And that day I wrote down some questions that were different. I took like half of them. And the parts I took that I wanted to ask you about, so like you have this background in film and video.
Yes.
So the first question, which I know is such, it's like I'm tossing you a softball, and I want to hear which way you take it. Is like, what do you love about film and video? And with that, what distinctions do you make between film and video? If so, like if that colors how you'd answer it, like, well, I love this about film and this about video.
Hmm.
I imagine there's some Venn diagram going on with your kind of meaning system. But yeah, like, what do you love about film and video?
I mean, it's interesting to me because you know, growing up, um, when it came to the difference between film and video for me, it's like film felt like a more of this sort of fantasy type world. You know, you go to the movie theaters, you're watching a film or you're watching movies. Everything is very, you know,
Mm, yeah,
fantasy
and
wise taking
heightened.
place and heightened taking place
Yeah,
in this world on your TV. And video was more like your home movies. You know, your dad's shooting home movies on his video camera
yeah,
or whatever. And so you watch those back, you're like, it's not that interesting. It's like I was there, you know,
right.
like
It
I
almost looks less
experienced it.
interesting than real life,
Right.
quote unquote,
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah. And as I got older and more invested in the craft and doing it more, there really is no difference between the two
Mm,
because people call films because it was shot on film and people call video because it's shot on video, right? But what it really comes down to, and I tell people this all the time, especially people who are like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to be a filmmaker, but you know, I don't have, and it's a big thing. I'm like, I don't have the equipment to do this. Like, I don't have a,
yeah, it's like
you
you got an
know,
iPhone.
whatever. Yeah. You got an iPhone.
Yeah,
Every camera shoots like, I think iPhones shoot like 4K now. I think like the new
yeah,
iPhones
for sure.
can shoot 4K, but um, growing up and the more you
It's
get into it, you
crazy.
realize there really is no difference to it. Um, it's all about one common thing, and it's a story. Like the
Mm,
films you watch are a story, but also when you're looking back in the videos that your dad used to record, there's a story there because something was going on at that time. There's a reason why he was shooting that,
right.
right? Oh, there's a story. They were opening Christmas presents. Well, why were they opening Christmas presents? Well, it was Christmas. Okay. What were they doing that? You know, what happened before that or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of something that stuck out to me. And you know, now with YouTube and everything, if you wanted to say YouTube was more of like a video format compared to the overall cinematic experience of film,
Right.
um, it's sort of, you know, it's very grand, it's very big,
Yeah.
cinematic. It has a specific look to it. It has a specific feel to it. Um, it has, again, it's that fantasy type world. Whereas if I'm shooting something for YouTube at home, it's gonna feel smaller in scale because I'm
Right.
literally sitting in my office staring at a camera
Yeah.
and you know talking.
Static background,
Right.
all
And there's
these, like the
and
composition of it, and yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of effort that goes into films and cinema, and then with something like what I do here, I mean, there's effort that goes into it, but we're talking like maybe like 30 minutes of prep as compared
Right.
to, you know, 6 months, a year, 2 years of prep
Yeah.
for
And
a
the
six
scale of a
month shooting
team.
day. In the scale of the team. Yeah. I mean, on a film, you're dealing
Everyone
with
might
like
spend that long.
hundreds of people.
It's craziness. And
Yeah.
budget, and yeah. And then the that's the, like, the prep, and then the shooting itself, and then editing. So then you're also like length. I'd say length ties
Yeah.
in, starts to color the like lines, right? Like most people don't just quote unquote watch a video for 3 hours. Unless
Right.
it's like, you know, maybe you're really going in on a lecture or something, like a hard skill you're learning, and you've made your way to a 3 hour video, and that's what you signed up for. But
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah.
Okay. So two things I wanted to highlight that words you use. So maybe it's three things, but I heard you say tie into this like fantasy,
Hmm.
and then you circled back to like Dad's home video, and you're like, there was a reason, a story, something was happening. So I thought, so there's like fantasy, and then there's capturing something that's happening that's maybe like different or notable in a different way than how we normally witness things happening.
Hmm.
And and then the other thing I guess is like scale, but what's the what do you feel like you like why do you think those things, fantasy, and we'll leave out the third like kind of scale question, but the fantasy or heightened experience, and then this like capturing storytelling, why do you think that's important for humanity? And if humanity's too big, you can just say for you. Like what's important about it?
Well, I mean, history throughout history, we've always told stories. Like it's how humans connect is through stories.
Yeah.
I mean, you're even early, cavemen with the paintings and the drawings or whatever. They were all stories. Stories passed down and lessons and life. I feel like stories are a way for us to be able to sort of navigate the world in a way
Mm,
based on people's past experiences, and it it helps us sort of, I guess, yeah, I mean, I said navigate, but
yeah,
you know
navigate.
what I mean.
Yeah,
It helps us kind of figure things out,
for
and
sure. I mean, like a
and
map, we use maps for navigation, and it's like it's a documentation of what has been found,
hmm.
and explored already. So there's that like past element of
Right,
this
and
has happened. So let that inform you of like quote
right,
unquote
because
where you are or who you are, or what is now.
yeah, because
What's
stories are experiences.
yeah.
So something happened to somebody. Why did it happen to that person? How did they handle that situation? What did they learn from that situation? Boom. Okay. If that situation happens to you, this is how you can handle it. This is how they got through it. Or you pass
Mm,
that same knowledge down to someone else if it doesn't happen to you, you know?
I love that. Yeah, it's funny too because I think I've been challenged by, like my contribution as an artist to, and even when I've imagined, like when I've, grew up fantasizing about like being an actor,
Hmm.
and then it's like thinking of the merit of different stories and characters, including despicable ones. And like for me, this is where the fantasy element comes in. I'm fascinated by what we fantasize about, or what the stories that we dream up are and why, and like what's the yeah, I'd be curious, because I think everything you just said, I you can definitely apply it to weaving fictional stories and inventing stories.
Well, I mean, even
But
inventing
like, yeah,
stories and fictional stories, like there's always lessons in them,
right,
or there's
right,
a message embedded within that story for somebody to pick up on, or whether it's something you're protesting about.
yeah.
Like there's always messages and lessons embedded in the stories, whether they're made up or not. You can always find something
What are
in
some of
them.
your favorite stories? And they can be cinematic or a book or both. Like I won't ask you to rank them because I hate doing that. It's too hard for me. But just like, ones that come to mind are maybe formative or that are just, and it could be recent too.
Yeah. Hmm. I do love. So one of my favorite films growing up was Saving Private Ryan,
Oh heck yeah.
and I think I loved
Tessa
it
and
so
I just
much.
we just watched Band of Brothers, which
Oh yeah,
Tom Hanks was involved. Tom Hanks and Spielberg. I got her
yeah,
into it, and she was like, "Okay, I'm in." We watched the whole
yeah.
thing.
Band of Brothers is dope.
Okay, but yeah,
Um,
Saving Private Ryan.
yeah, and I think it's not just because of the visual cinematography in it, which is great, but the
Yeah.
story of it is also great, and the characters are great, and their personal
What age do you
struggles
think you
and
watched that
journeys.
at?
Oh, dude, I was probably I had to be like 9
Yeah.
when I first watched it for the first time, and I think I watched it. It was on TV, and I think my dad was watching it, and I just started watching it with him. And I know that he's like, I'm not sure if you should kind of be watching this or whatever,
Totally.
but but he let me, and it was like the near the end of the movie, so it was like the final battle sequence,
Yeah.
and when they're in the town and everything. Um, and I remember I was just like,
Before Matt Damon is really like,
yeah, like
or they just got him.
they just
Something
got
like
him,
that.
and they're supposed to secure the bridge.
Yeah.
So I remember watching that scene, and at the time, like I loved like World War II. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was my favorite subject in class. I always played like the Medal of Honors and the
Oh
Call
yeah,
of Duty
Big
video
Red
games.
One, all
Big
that.
Red One, yep. European Assault.
Sure.
So I loved it. So when I saw this movie, I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? So I watched that scene, and then when I got probably like a year or two later, I actually bought the DVD. I remember it was my birthday, and my grandma would take me to. Uh, she'd give me like a $100 limit, and then she would take me to like a Toys R Us or wherever I
Yeah,
wanted to go.
which is like a
And
lot, right? You're a kid. You're like,
yeah,
I can get a few pretty cool things. I could get like one video game and some candy. I could get,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're
But
like, I don't know,
and
a new console game is like $60.
at that time, I had really hit like my film stride, where I was like, okay, this is like I really like doing this, because I was about like 12 or 13 once I started getting into it,
I was gonna
and so
ask.
I was spending
Okay,
all my
dang,
money on DVDs.
wow. You
Yeah.
just watch. So you were consciously dissecting movies you were watching.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And I think I had always been doing that growing up without even realizing it.
same dude. That's
Yeah.
like music and
Because
movies. It's just, I'm like, whoa, I'm like, oh, how do you figure out how to walk like that?
yeah,
And, oh, they got this. Why'd they start with that scene?
right. And
Right.
the first movie I ever made that I can remember was it was an Indiana Jones movie, because I loved Indiana Jones, and I had a Lego set, and so I had a little Lego guy that looked like Indiana Jones. So I was like,
Heck yeah.
I can't remember what his name was, but he was like, it was based off of Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
but it wasn't Indiana Jones, probably for licensing purposes.
Yeah.
Um, but I
It was
remember,
indie.
yeah, I had my dad's home video camera, and I was just bored one day. I think because we had moved, so I didn't have any friends yet, so I was trying to figure out how to curb the boredom, and I was just like, I don't know where the idea came from. I was like, I'm just gonna use the video camera and make a movie or whatever. So I made it based off. You've been to Disneyland in California?
No, I've been to Disney
No?
World, but not land yet. Yeah.
Okay. So there's an Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland, and it was
Sweet.
one of my favorite rides when I was a kid. And so I made a movie based on that ride, kind of based
Heck
it
yeah.
around it.
I can
And
kind of get the vibe because I've been on the, I know it's a different genre, but like adjacent to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in Disney, World,
yeah,
which the movie is actually based off the ride, which is kind of a funny thing. But
yeah,
so there you go. You based the movie off a ride, just
I
like
based
Pirates
the
of the
movie
Caribbean.
off of ride. Yep.
Did you
Yep.
make as much money?
I did not. I didn't make shit. No, but it was
So this was
fun
like
in
this is
the-
like a camcorder. Was it a little tape? Was it a mini disc? Was it a digital?
Yeah, it was the little mini
a little mini
tapes.
like a little tapes.
No,
Okay.
actually, no. I think it was the bigger ones. They didn't have mini DV yet at the time. It was the
It was a-
bigger, like
It was like a VHS.
actual,
almost.
not like VHS,
The one
like almost like
smaller.
it was like
Like a cassette.
a thick cassette tape.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like, really thick cassette tape. And yeah, I shot it, and it was weird how I shot it because I figured out a lot of stuff like angles, but the biggest thing that I couldn't figure out was like, okay, how do I make the Legos move by
With the
themselves without me being
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
moving them across the
With your
screen or
hand.
whatever. And I remember this trick my dad used to do with the camera where like we'd be standing in the camera and he'd record and then he would pause it and then we would like leave the screen or whatever
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
he would record again, then you play it back and it's like you
Disappear.
vanished, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if I do that a bunch of times, but each time I just keep moving him
Just maybe
like
it.
slowly, slowly,
You just
slowly.
figured out stop motion without
I
knowing
figured
it.
out stop motion without knowing what the hell stop motion animation was. Um,
Dang.
and yeah, I just applied that to all the rest of the little Lego movies that I made.
That's
It
crazy.
was
You know what's also strikes me is like you went into the Air Force,
mhm.
and it's kind of funny that Saving Private Ryan was like this simultaneous. I mean, you're obsessed with World War II, and a lot of boys were and are like, especially from what I speak to, kids I grew up with, like my best friend, childhood, like he went on to go. I thought we were both gonna like go in the military together, and then I got old enough to the point where I was like, I'm terrible with authority, and I just I can't do this. But he stayed that course, and ended up going
Right.
in. But I think it's interesting that it was like you kind of got a kernel of both of those in your this memorable encounter with Saving Private Ryan. It was like the filmmaking, the power of storytelling through the movie,
Mhm.
and and soldiers and combat and war. And like, I don't know, I just think that's interesting. So then how many movies did you go on to make? Like just your own little movies from like 12 to, let's say, pre-film school.
Pre-film school.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even know. I know a majority of them. I know like 3 or 4 of them were like Lego movies, and then I made some friends,
And then
and
I made some friends.
then I made some friends, and we made some movies, and they
You
weren't
convinced
even.
them to make movies. You were like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
dude, that's
and they
cool.
weren't even really like movies. They're more just kind of like I remember there was one I did with my neighbor where we were just playing like cowboys and we were like sitting there like drinking
Yeah.
beer at a table and then we ended up in a shootout outside. There was no story to it. It was just
Right,
like these
right. It's
two
just
guys
like here
drinking
are
beer.
two scenes loosely connected.
Right. And they go outside and they just start shooting shit. So like that was it.
I
But
love
yeah,
it.
I
That's
did a lot
funny.
of that. I did a lot of that stuff. And then when I got into high school, I had a group of friends that I met in we had a like a video production class in high school. And I
So you
met a
started
couple
getting
people
more
there.
serious, more like
Yeah.
analytical and technical and like
Right,
learning.
learning
Oh,
how to
there's a
edit
greater
on
craft.
on the computer instead of editing in camera
What
and
was
all of
that?
that.
What'd you use then in the computer to edit?
I think we used Adobe Premiere.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
like
dope.
the old
Yeah,
school
just
Adobe
like
Premiere.
OG Adobe.
Mhm.
That's cool. So, would you did you kind of then have in high school, like, were you like the geeky art guy in the group, or was your friend group geeky art guys like you?
No, I don't
You
to
you
be
you
honest, I
seem
don't think
like if I just like armchair experted you like Dax, I'd be like, you seem, and maybe this is more from then military experience, but you seem like you learned how to fit in with jocks, basic cool guy crowd, and you kind of
basically,
have
yeah.
both. You got like both parts of you.
Yeah. I mean, I was nerdy, I'm not gonna lie. Like, looking back then, I was like, "Oh my god, I was nerdy as hell."
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that, like, geeky, like, artistic nerdy. It was just like, this guy's super skinny, he doesn't know how to dress well. You know what I mean? He doesn't know how to do his hair. But I was able to kind of fit within different groups. I definitely wasn't popular in high school. I had friends who were popular, but that's because I played sports with them.
Yeah.
We just happened to be on the same team. Um,
It
but
was
yeah,
easy for you to kind of like be in with enough people
to kind of
and
hop
float
around.
around.
And
Yeah, yeah.
like I had my core group of
Dude,
friends and we were
same.
definitely nerds, but I was able to hop around and kind of be in the different groups if I wanted to be. But then there were times when like I get into a group and they feel like really like out of place, you know.
Yeah,
We were just like, I don't fit in with these people at
yeah,
all. And no
for
matter how
sure.
hard I try to fit in with these people, I am just not gonna fit in
Just
with
not
these
gonna fit in.
people.
Yeah, or just like even be for me, it was like just enjoy the things that they enjoy.
Yeah.
I would just, kind of get to that point. It's like, yeah, I can like fake it a little bit in school or in the group, but like they want to spend a whole weekend doing XYZ, and I just want to spend the weekend like just playing make believe or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Just like, or just hanging out, honestly, or just hanging out with my older brother and his friends. It's like
Right.
3 years older.
What were you like in high school? Like I know you mentioned hopping around, but
Yeah, well, high school was so different for me because I left public high school
mhm,
in like after the first semester of my freshman year. So my older brother and I actually both switched to online school because we were just like, we want to study and pursue entrepreneurship and just like work and make money,
right.
and we think we can, we both hated school. We both hated being at school. Like we loved hanging out with friends outside of school. He always in high like beyond elementary school, my brother always, I think, did a lot better than me grade wise. I was just too social at school, and then I was very entitled about homework.
Yeah.
So it's like when I got home, I was like, I'm not doing. That's how I thought it was like they took 8 hours from me or whatever. Already, like however much time in a school day, it'd be like 7:30 to 2:30 or something.
Right.
Um, and I was just like, I'm not gonna do homework. I just don't want to do it. I mean, so high school, like my social group was more, it was like my childhood best friend, Scott, who we never went to the same school. So we always hung out with each other on weekends, and we're used to like we didn't see each other during the week.
Mhm.
It was just like, yeah, just hang out then. By high school though, I was really into like personal development and entrepreneurship in large part because my parents got into like, I don't know, just a lot of those books and like let me go to like a seminar, and they were like the classic, like they're super cheesy. There's all this hype. They like really sell hard to people to try to get them to buy like the next course, all
Right.
these things. And I learned a lot. And I was just like, yeah, it really is just a decision of what you believe you can make or the value you can add to the world and these kinds of things. So, yeah, but I mean, by 16, somewhere around 15, I figured out like I enjoyed writing raps and just performing them. And then by 16, I had like done several really bad songs on just like free beats that I ripped off YouTube and in Audacity on like a $30 USB mic on my
Mhm.
HP laptop. And the recordings weren't for anyone to hear. They were just so that I could write and remember like how I performed what I rapped, like what I wrote.
Right.
And so that I could do it and lay it down and then move on to write another part and not keep it all in my head. And then yeah, I mean, I was going to church, like I was really active in a teen ministry. So that was like more my friend group in a Christian church, and I was doing that, just like goofing off with my friends and my brother and his friends, and making mixtapes. Like and I'd wake up. I was very like, I started journaling in high school,
Mhm.
and it started out not so much daily, but then like it became daily. And yeah, I mean, I was that like kid writing, detailed dreams, like I'm doing this and I'm going to become this and like, yeah, all this stuff. I mean, I thought I was going to be a millionaire by 18, like for sure.
Yeah.
I was completely, like you couldn't talk me out of that.
Right.
And I'm not. I did not become that. Though it's funny though, because I carry so much with me, and I've like, had different experiences, different failures, learnings about myself, the way the world works, all kinds of things. But eventually I just, I slowed down more and more. By 18, I was like taking the time to learn Logic to produce beats. And it was almost like, it was like starting everything over. Because my brother and I had raised like $9,000 for a Kickstarter project, through a Kickstarter project for my first mixtape, which was just going to be a free mixtape. And it was. And we did that and made it. And then like I just worked part-time at the mall at a sports memorabilia store.
Mm-hmm.
I had different jobs. I sold honey at a farmer's market over the summer for one job. I worked as an overnight janitor at the Hyatt House Hotel. And I liked jobs where I could listen or talk to people or write. Like not talk to people for work. like be walking down the halls doing my job, with no one over my shoulder, and I can be like I remember listening to like 48 Laws of Power at 2 a.m. in the hotel while I'm like cleaning out maid closets, and taking the laundry and dishes down and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I was very like, I was like dreaming and scheming a lot, and just kind of like figuring out how to rap and write. And just trying to absorb as much as I could about entrepreneurship and like the way wealthy people think,
Mm-hmm.
and how to invest, all these types of things. But it was like two parts of me at war with each other, because it was still so head in the clouds, like artist, and fantasizer. Like I made myself feel good by fantasizing.
Right.
Right. And it's like not the same as the Gary V type, who is just, oh man, I could sell that for $6 and do that in 10,000 times. Right. Or whatever the thing is, like, oh, these are hot right now. Let me flip these on eBay. And then just does that and isn't thinking about, oh, I'm going to have a massive audience and it's cool. Da 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 da. We were watching Wiz Khalifa, Big Sean, and Mac Miller, like just internet popping. Like none of them had deals yet.
Right.
And so that was really influential. Yeah, that's a lot. It's kind of crazy. It's like that was, I'm 27 now, so a decade ago.
Yeah. About like your music and stuff, you mentioned, kind of starting back with like Audacity and
Yeah.
learning, how to rap and everything. How's your writing style changed compared to like when you started as to where you are now?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's interesting because I've produced a lot more on the music side of things, like instrumental, like compositions, beats, and everything. I've done that more than writing from like 18 to now. Then I did, or let me put it this way, from 15 to 18, I wrote more songs than I've written since I was 18.
Damn.
So I've written between 70 and 80 songs, which is like awesome for someone who's like not a pro, like high, like paid and like with a big audience and stuff. For the pros, it's like, bruh, you need to, you know. So I've had to learn how to get, you know, be in between those. But my writing has changed. You know, I think what I read affects what I think and write. What I read and watch and my life experiences. So it's changed a lot, and I'd say originally it was pretty like, well, it was definitely like cornier, like corny, um, very playful though. I think I
Hmm.
still like to make things playful, um, but more heady. I'd say I've gotten less heady. At least I try to be, because that part of me can get really strong, and it can be when you're, especially rap, right? It's lyrical, and if you can rap fast, it can be easy to automatically tend towards that, even if, you know. So I think I check myself more, and I think being producer taught me that a lot, and also just helped like disperse my creative energy into kind of this other part.
Hmm.
So I come into the writing a little more chill and more strategic. Like I used to, you know, also probably just nature being like an adolescent, just like from a beat, and I just wanted to go off on everything. It was like how I thought of it. And I was also probably more self-indulgent. Like
Hmm.
I cared a lot more about just making myself impressed at myself than being like, how does this actually feel on the receiving end for the intended audience? Um, and writing now, you know, I was just thinking, like, I've been thinking this week of just how much there's so many things I want to write beyond
Hmm.
songs too. So it's not even, yeah, it's, you know, I think I also wrote with this, you know, when we did this mixtape, you know, Kickstarter and then subsequent, I was like, I decided and committed to this overarching theme. And it was of like, I'm going to make like transformational, like empowering, positive, like clean rap. Like, remember, I was this blend of like, you know, kid in like studying the Bible in a
Yeah, yeah,
in a church community, and going to like Secrets of the Millionaire Mind seminars and reading like Wayne Dyer Wishes Fulfilled and Think and Grow Rich and like manifestation books and all these things. So I wanted to put all of that into songs.
hmm,
And I think in that way, you know, I don't do that anymore, but I've retained like the values, so that hasn't changed. I keep that of like, what am I really trying to do here? You know, because I think I love stuff that's just for laughs and entertainment, or just
right.
like because it's just dope and it's just a vibe and it feels good. Um, but writing slow, it takes longer. I can produce probably, you know, 5 to 7. Nah, that's probably generous. 5. I could probably produce 3 if they're a lot harder, but 3 to 5 finished like tracks, beats, instrumentals in the time it takes me to write and definitely record the lyrics for one song. And because of that, I think I've just gotten slower and more like, I only want to write something that's worth, like, actually I had an old lyric. It's like, I only want to spit a written if it's worth reading. Like,
Hmm.
you know, I don't want to just like say things to say things. And
Right.
so I've had a lot of ideas that I was just like, eh, you know.
Do you see yourself moving more into the production side of things and less of the writing?
That's a good
You know.
question. I mean, for me now, I, you know, I went from, I've learned how poorly I've operated as like a solo entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And in terms of like really going from, like, I haven't done what you've done, Taylor. Like, you you spent years, like a couple years, working full time and consistently making and posting a quality YouTube video in line with a brand and a channel, right? Past, you're probably close to 300 videos now. And that was the piece I've always missed. And the reason I
Mhm.
say that when you ask, do I see myself going more into production, is like, I don't, where I'm at now is stepping back and going, why, like, what is my creativity to me, even? Like, who am I doing this for? What's it for? Because if it's like hobbyist, then you can just do any creative thing whenever you're inspired or not, and you're fulfilling the purpose of a hobby.
Right.
If it's, "Oh, I want to make the biggest influence possible on a specific audience, well, then it's more like, well, I don't know, like where are kids these days? TikTok, right? So if it's like, if it's that, I don't see stopping the production, and I don't see stopping the writing. Right now I'm looking at, I have my coaching practice open for teaching people how to produce and make songs, and also just like have a creative mindset. Um, but I stopped prospecting and like heavily going like I need to make my living income from this, because I was driving myself crazy and I want to work with people. So like right now, literally right now, I'm in the job market,
Mhm.
and I'm looking for work in the impact space. Because the closest thing to college that I did was a social entrepreneurship accelerator in Boulder called Watson Institute. And that's where like most of my closest friends now, like they're all from that community,
Right.
and they're all, startup entrepreneurs, or they work for like cool companies, nonprofit. My girlfriend started a nonprofit. Our friend, both of our friends, different friends, we're going to the Broncos game tonight with. They both started and run different nonprofits, and I care about that. So it's like these warring parts of me. And I don't know, man. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my writing next, and kind of how to recontextualize. But what I'm clear on lately is I'm taking the pressure off of myself to go, I gotta be great and make something huge, and
Mhm.
I need to make a lot of money in it and do it fast. I think I still am holding on to the confidence of scale and possibilities that I cultivated from a young age in personal development and in spiritual faith. Like, I don't consider myself a Christian anymore, and some ultra kind of privileged white guy self-help stuff makes me cringe. And there are still great things in those for me that I use. And so I'm figuring it out, man. Like, I mean, rapping is so unique. It's so like it's such a cool way to speak on something or to write.
Mhm.
Um, but not having gone to college, like there's a lot of undeveloped parts of me in writing that I felt a continuous calling towards, like creative writing, and like really sitting down, and like I'm interested in writing a screenplay,
Uh-huh.
or writing a book. Maybe they're the same story, or just short stories. But then I look at TikTok and I look at what I've learned with music, right? And my brain, like I want to do all the things, right? I was
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
watching. Did you ever watch Arcane on Netflix?
No, not yet.
It's okay. It's okay. It's amazing. It's like, critically acclaimed. And I follow Tim Ferriss, and he does a weekly email of things he's checking out. And he he loved Arcane, and his dream, like that I think he's revisiting a little bit, I'm getting hints of, was like being a comic book like illustrator, or he loved to draw and stuff when he was younger. And he's big fan of Arcane, and he shared there's a two-part. I was like one and a half, like 1 point or like what am I trying to say? 2/3 through it before our call. It's the making of Arcane, parts 1 and 2, 30 minutes each. And just watching these teams of animators, storytellers, and then the OG music. And also it's from like video, it's League of Legends world. So I thought that was interesting that it kind of in my mind and more every day with the way technology and fan bases and media and art are, like you can get to any end from any beginning in the creative world. Like you can write a novel and it might branch into this like amazing video game.
Right.
Or you can be writing a novel and you think it's writing a novel and maybe you don't finish the novel, but you team up with guys and you make this cool game. Or maybe it's actually you're writing it and then you're like, this is actually a short story. And then maybe you become a prolific short story writer, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're a hobbyist writer. And then you go on to just find a community of people who struggle to start. Like there's just so many ways things can go down. And I'm more humble and open to that, but also finding like, you know, the little things add up. So right now I'm searching for like, where is my commitment level at with, you know, posting a TikTok every week? Like, is that really what I want to do?
Right.
Or, you know, do I want to just blog about things I'm reading and thinking? Yeah, man, it's funny. Like the timing for you to ask me that question is probably the most different response I could give compared to if you asked me that any time over the last 6 years, my answer probably would have been, probably wouldn't have been shorter because I talk a lot, but it would have been a lot more like in the same wheelhouse of, I just want to rap better. You know, I want to write, you know, I want better, I don't know, similes and metaphors. And I want to learn how to like I want to tell more stories.
Right.
Through songs and stuff like that. Whereas now I'm just like writing. I mean, writing it goes into every single industry and like creative art form other than, you know, like pottery and like painting and things like that. And even then you could probably find ways. Yeah. Do you write? Like, do you have a relationship with writing?
Yeah. I mean,
of course you have a relationship with writing, but like, what is your relationship with writing?
Well, I will say that like, even though I hated school so much, like I hated school. I almost failed high school because I hated school so much.
I got my GED so I could finish it, by the way. I didn't tell that part of the story.
Yeah.
But I was like, online school was too much. I was just
I always seemed to be good at English. And like, I mean, for me, as far as like on my filmmaking side of things, like writing is like a huge important step. But it's interesting to me though, because I always see these guys who's like, oh yeah, I'm a writer director, like I write my own films and I shoot them or whatever. And I'm like, that's cool, bro. Like I'll come up with like ideas in my head. Of like,
and then you'll talk them out with who you're working with.
Right. I'll talk them out with who I'm working with, or I'll go to sit down. Like I think I've probably written in my life maybe like a total of 10 scripts, and they were never feature film scripts. They were always short film scripts. But
that's cool though.
I hate writing scripts. Like that's the thing. Is like like
when it comes into that format.
Well, just even like, then, like I have the idea in my head and I know what I want it to be. And then I sit down and I go to write, and I have maybe like that one scene that I've just put so much thought into, right? But then it's like, okay, great. I did that scene. Now, how do I connect everything else to connect to that one scene in order to complete a whole entire story? So, yeah, I mean, writing for me, I enjoy it. I like writing stories, and I do, you know, marketing for
Right. So you write copy.
living. I write copy all the time, so it's always fun to figure out like the best way to do. Like this one thing we did is the gym I work for. They just launched an app, like their own app.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was creating posters to promote the app with the QR code, so people at the gym could scan the QR code and they could just go to
Yeah.
the store and download the app or whatever. But the fun part was trying to figure out what to say on the poster
Yeah.
that
To
wasn't
get
like
them to action.
to actually get them to do it, not like, hey, check out our new app, like that's so
Right.
like fucking basic. Like how, okay, cool, like, yeah, let me check out the app, like what is it gonna do for me? And of course it's got like all the features of what it can do underneath
Yeah.
it, but there needs to be like that
The call to action.
grasping, right?
Yeah.
There needs to be that grasping. And so I probably spent like a good hour trying out different phrases.
Yeah.
And which really inspired me actually was like, I can't remember where I saw it. I don't know if it was a TikTok or I saw it online somewhere, but it was talking about like the copy that Apple does when they launched the iPod for the first time. And they were talking about how their thing was really unique because it told the audience in a few words exactly what it could do in only a few words. So it was like they came up with the example of like they could have said like, oh, it's you can download songs on it or whatever, and then like, you can listen to them and like the long extensive. But what they ended up doing on the ad for the copies, they just put 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so
you're just like, what is that?
Yeah, because that captures your attention. You're like 1,000 songs in my pocket. Like, how is that possible? So I had that like idea in my head of like, okay, I want to do something that's like that, where I'm not sitting here explaining this.
Dude, did you just steal it? I would have just stolen it and done the workout equivalent. Like
1,000 workouts in your pocket.
Yeah, if it actually is that. But like, or like all your training resources in your, I don't know. Whatever the benefit that's important to them.
Yeah, what eventually went on the poster was your fitness goals just got a whole lot closer.
Oh, sick.
And
good.
Then it had
nice,
the features
man. I like
on
that.
It.
I like
that. Yeah. I thought
dude, see, yeah, so I love jamming on these things with friends too, like helping them get the right words, or if I like, I love being the person, like if a friend asks me, or if it's, especially if it's a hard relationship, like, I got this text from so-and-so and I've been thinking of this and this is what I want to say, but like, I don't know, and I don't really want to like get on the phone or whatever the thing is. And I'm just like, well, let's talk this out, and then like help them craft it. And maybe they'll show it to me and I'm like, I mean, this is what this could come across this way if you send that. Like,
this is what you should say.
Yeah.
Send nudes.
Send nudes.
I love her. I love her so much. I just want to express my feelings about how much I love her and how much I want to take care of her. It's easy, bro. Easy. Just type send nudes.
Just type send nudes. You'll destroy this one. You'll recover, and I'll be entertained. It's terrible. No, but and it's usually like, it's usually saying the hard stuff, like not the happy things, or the like interested, or ooey gooey feelings. It's the like, how do I tell this person, like we have such different beliefs around this, and I feel hurt, or I feel pissed, or those kinds of things. So I feel like called into those diplomatic situations.
Mm-hmm.
But writing, man, I mean, I've journaled every day pretty much for the last like 12 years. And so it's interesting because I have the writing habit in that capacity. It's just that I think focus and commitment are hard for me creatively. And that's probably why I enjoyed and do enjoy songs, because they're smaller form.
Hmm.
So, like a book, I'm like, I gotta really love that that idea, but it's also just the practice of it. This thing of practice. I know we're at uh, probably go another like 15 minutes. Um, how are you on time?
I'm good. Yeah, we could do another 15.
All right, cool. I was gonna ask you what's a habit that would be transformative for you. Maybe you've like daydreamt about a specific habit, like God, if I did that on a daily or weekly basis or something. Like, what is one of those that you haven't fully applied or gotten down that you've like thought about a lot?
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I think it's just holding myself accountable
Mm,
is the habit I have to do. Because I'm like you, right? I have all these ideas. I have all of these things that I want to do. Oh, I want to shoot films. Oh, I want
yeah,
YouTube. Oh, I want to do this and that. But it's like putting the idea out there. It's like, yeah, I want to do it. And I go to do it. And then I'm like,
right,
don't want to do it. I want to move on to something else. So it's
yeah,
being able to hold myself accountable and be like, look, okay, no, you got to do it because you got I'm I'll be honest right now with like YouTube and stuff.
for sure, right?
Like in the beginning when I first started doing it, I held myself very accountable because it was new to me. I was doing it.
Mm,
I was starting to get views and everything. And I mean YouTube is just like a very, very specific beast in itself because you don't realize what it actually goes into it, not only like inner influences with you in your life, but with like
yeah,
outside influences as well. Because,
yeah. It's
um,
connected to whatever's trending in the world, and
right,
like what
yeah,
are
and
people tied into, and something new might happen, like Russia and Ukraine, and it's just I
yeah,
know that's not as much in the space of the type of videos you make, but still, I bet there's big fluctuations in traffic and searches.
right, and like, and so it's the part of holding myself accountable to do the things that I need to do in order to reach the places. Because to me, I'm like the most patient guy ever. Like my patience, I can stand in line for 45 minutes and not be a dick. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right, right.
I'm very patient, but when it comes to like the things that I want to do and the goals that I want to reach, I am not patient with those stuff.
Same,
I
same,
don't
man.
want to put in the steps to get there. I just want to be there.
Right,
You
for
know.
sure.
So
Oh
so
yeah,
it's that accountability of laying down the bricks that I need to lay down in order to
yeah,
get to where I want to be, but I always want to do it quick. And if it doesn't happen quick for me, then I'm like, you know what?
yeah, yeah.
Guess this ain't gonna be it.
So why do
You
you
know?
is that I was gonna ask, why do you think that habit of accountability you haven't like instilled it as much as you want to? Is it so you mentioned impatience about creative goals? Like, do you think any other reasons? Like,
I think it's
because
I don't know.
also you did hold yourself accountable for the period that you have to like learn, like have the skills you have, like
You know,
in making there's like untapped potential, because I know that feeling, that thought. You're like, gosh, I know I can do so much. I know I can do so much more. I can make more. I can create
right.
more and better. And why don't I hold myself accountable? So like, I'm curious about this stuff, with myself. I really connect to the patience point of like, that's so I could totally relate. I'm the like, oh well, okay, there's traffic. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
and
gonna be late. Like, babe, we're gonna be late. That's all right. That's fine. That's just
yeah,
is what it is now. And like, we're just gonna sit. It's gonna whatever the thing is gonna take the time it takes.
yeah, and
And but yeah, with the I go through that same thing. Like, is this worth engaging if I don't get the feedback or progress or success? And like, if I'm not doing it because I'm not seeing that, then what is my why for it?
Hmm.
That's what I'm posing to you. It's like, why do you think accountability is hard in that?
I think because accountability or non-accountability has become such a habit,
Mm.
if that makes sense. Like it's always kind of been that growing up, you know, uh with school. People call it like lazy. I never did my homework in school, like it's just lazy
Procrastinator.
and procrastinate and
The
stuff like
projects
that.
that you're like, you're not going to get away with not doing. So it's like an 8-week project and you'll do it on like the last week.
Right. But then so I think it has to do with that. And then of course like I think you think about it's hard to measure success because when you see successful people, you don't see the struggle that they
Mhm.
went through in order to be successful. You just see them successful.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe
they've been in the
somebody
struggle for years.
right,
And
but
they're
you're
just
but
like,
you're
I work, like, what do you mean? Like, I work all the time.
yeah,
Like, and even the success that we see, that it feels different to them.
exactly. And like
They're like, I just want to relax.
and it's like your brain doesn't comprehend that they just see, oh, so and so just got cast in this really big movie.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, well, where'd they find this person, but they don't know that this person has been for like probably like 10 years just like scratching away
Yeah.
at
5
like
auditions a week for 10
short
years.
films for students. And
Yep.
yeah,
Indie.
like
Yeah. They pay you $100 for 3 days, like $100 in meals. Cause I've looked on the backstage
yeah,
auditions. Like even now I'm like,
bro,
God, you really got to love
it's
this.
shit.
You
It's
gotta,
shit.
you gotta, it's really messed up. Yeah, you and I both have that side acting. Like, oh gosh, wouldn't that be?
I keep telling you, dude, we got to make a movie together.
I did. I just audited an acting class on Tuesday
Oh,
night.
yeah?
Yeah, this
How
was
was,
class in Boulders from 7 to 11 p.m. And dude, I loved it. I loved it.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, the industry stuff. I'm like, I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna go do the amount of auditions, all these things, and you gotta want it. Like, you gotta be so singular about it. I
Mhm.
mean, there are blue collar. There are plenty of people that work jobs and they audition and stuff, and you can send audition tapes in and stuff now. But also, you got to think about this: what happens if you get it, and it's just it's a small thing to build your resume,
Yeah.
and it's 3 weeks, and it doesn't pay great, and you want to do it, but you work a job.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how it works. It's wild, man. Yeah, like listening to Matthew McConaughey's book and told in his voice, read in his voice, Green Lights this year. That helped me put things in perspective too. Of just it's different, and I really love doing life with a partner, and I think it's different when you're not. I don't know. It's like if we were both actors in LA going for it or something, maybe, or if one of us was like extra established and like, could just cover everything. But that's not reality, for me right now. And that was another reason I went into music instead.
Mhm.
Cause I was like, I can really do this from anywhere with the internet. And I can write and tell my own stories and things, but it doesn't like fulfill that same, cause I love being across from a human being or with a group of human beings,
Mhm.
like in person. Like that energy is unlike anything else. I also love the solo creative flow, but yeah, dude, I mean, I would love to make something together. I'm just, it's, I think humility is a theme word for me this year. It's
Yeah.
just humbled of, I used to just kind of, yeah, like I could do that. Oh, I could do that. Oh, I could be great at that. And it's just like literally a question I journaled to bring my focus to the present multiple times this week was, what am I becoming? What/who am I becoming through my actions today? Because that's it,
Right.
And those are the same hours everyone has to work with. So, if it's working XYZ, it's like, where are the hours at? What am I doing with them? It's like 2 hours of watching something.
Nah, I've
Here and
sat
there, it's
down.
not so much, but shoot.
I've sat down and like looked at a day and been like, I wasted so many hours on this
Right.
day of stuff that I could have
Which is
gotten done, but I
accountability
didn't.
to pat you on the back. Like, that is accountability. Also, this, I mean, took us till now, but we're here. Yeah, the accountability. Have you listened to Goggins? David Goggins' book?
Mm-mm.
So, do you know of David Goggins?
No, I've never heard of him.
This is the millionth time he's going to be talked about on a podcast, but
Okay.
he you should look him up. He was a Navy SEAL, and he's just done insane. He overcame, abuse and poverty and racism in all these ways. But he's a machine. Like, the stuff he does with his body and the stuff he's put his body through, like ridiculous ultra marathon races on like broken feet, and just, we're talking like over 100 miles, like an over 100-mile race, that kind of stuff. But he talks about the accountability mirror. It's like, that's how he talks about the mirror with himself. And he's like, man, I get a kick out of these, all these people who will gladly like give other people their money to hold them accountable. These accountability coaches. And he's like, hey, if that makes the difference for you, if that's really what you need, but it comes down to like, can you be accountable with yourself? Like, he just doesn't BS. He just hits it so on the money, and it's so true. It's that integrity piece. But I think without saying it, you touched on just kind of the sea of inputs. Just like, we have so many inputs, and especially if like we work on a computer,
Mm-hmm.
or if you make, building an audience or a craft or a business that's regularly connected to YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. It's like trying, I imagine it's kind of like how I imagine an alcoholic would feel going into like the dopest, craziest nightclubs and bars on a regular basis. Right. Like, because there's that, I need to create. And this is where I can reach. This is where I can share and reach. But this is also where I can fall into these consumption patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's guised too, because there's so much like inspiration, learning, all these things. That's what I can fall pretty. I love to learn. So, the fear is that I die with having learned and know so much more than I used and did and gave and created, right?
Right.
And that's why I'm re-questioning, some of these habits. These questions came, they're self-interested. I'm like, what's the point of making art? What habits do you think you need? Like to me, yeah, I think having some form of creative habit and creative flow is like one of my medicines.
Mm-hmm.
Because without some amount of doses of flow where I'm actually because when you're in the midst of it, right? Like, you literally like aren't thinking of anything else, and that's bliss. But you're not focused on the bliss. You're just in it.
Right.
And then after the fact, you're like, wow, that was amazing. Before, it's usually like, I don't want to. Okay, I've got to do it. Yeah, man. What do you, if you were just like fully accountable with yourself, like, let's just say I waved a magic wand and was like, boop, you are now perfectly accountable to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like a better, like, I don't even want to say the best use because you're doing a lot of cool and important things. Like, what's a shift that you think would show up in your days and weeks?
Ugh. Probably, I'm probably making a lot more money.
Mm. As a result of,
As a result of just putting the effort into my creative endeavors, and putting in the work towards them. Because everything I do to because I enjoy it, but also in the back of my head is like, okay, how can I make money off of it at the same time? You know,
yeah,
if I'm not gonna make anything from it, like, okay, like,
then
yeah,
you'll do it when you feel like it, and not
right?
when
Like,
you
you
don't.
have your, I'll do it when I feel like it, just as like for self,
Yeah,
whatever. But most of the time, I'm like, okay, I'm really good at this. How can I make money? How can I make money off
right.
of it? You know,
Because it's also you've done things that you don't like
right?
or that you're less suited for that have been your moneymaker, and it's like, gosh, life is short. I'd love to spend more of the time doing things that
Doing the stuff that I like
that I
and
like, or
making the money off of it.
yeah, and when you're not in love with it, you know, because it's not like I love every moment of writing and making music in this, like, gosh, I'm just psyched, you know, and this feels amazing way. But there's the other piece of to me, it's unique contribution. Like, how am I uniquely equipped to create and add value? Because that also pays off with money, right? The more value you can add, the more you can stand to make.
Right.
So you'd make a lot more money. Do you feel like a word that came up when I pictured you was like, and for me too, it was courage. Because you strike me as someone where you're like, well, I would, you know, make more money with creative endeavors. It's like, I don't think you don't know what to do, right? Or what works. I imagine sometimes that can be a problem if your mind is just, there's just too much noise.
Yeah.
But like, you know, oh, I want more clients. I got to prospect. Like, I need to generate leads somehow. I got to find. I don't know where, I got to find out where. And that's the essential thing. Like that kind of, yeah. So to me, I really relate to the accountability. And then for me, this other piece. So it's like accountability, courage, focus, and consistency. Because we know the consistency part, but the courage and the focus, man, focus is so hard for me. Like, I don't lack ideas, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, yeah, it's not like, I don't know what to make an album about, or I don't know what to write, what I could write a book. I'm like, oh my God, what couldn't I write a book about? What couldn't I make you know? Do you relate to that? Like, in your day, do you find it hard to focus?
Oh yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I don't think I've ever been able to just comfortably relax. Because if I'm not focusing on something externally, then it's gonna be other things. It's like a chaos in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like I'll be, people always give me shit because I'm always like, one of those like leg jigglers when you're like sitting down and like,
Yeah, fidgety.
you just
and kind of
fidgety and everything. It's because it's like if I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm fidgeting, I feel like I'm wasting time watching TV when I should be working on this. But then I go to work on this other thing and I'm like, well, fuck, I shouldn't be working on this. I should be working on this other thing. So then I go and work on this other thing and then I'm back at the TV again. And it's like this constant rotation.
Yeah.
And then even if I've done everything that I needed to do and I'm sitting in bed, just chilling, in my mind, I have stuff
Not
going
chill.
on. Like, oh, yeah, just not chill. It's like in my
Yeah.
head, it's like, oh well, we got this coming up. You got to do this tomorrow. Oh, or hey, or I had an idea for this, or whatever. It's like I remember when I started my YouTube channel, and I was probably about, I think I had like 2,000 subscribers at the time when I started it. I mean, this is still a thing to this day.
How many
And
months in do you think you were at 2000?
at 2,000,
Or were you over a year?
no, I wasn't over a year. I think I had hit about, no, I was at about 5,000, I remember. And um, this was probably about 4 or 5 months in to it.
That's big, man.
Yeah. Well, there was a point where I was hitting like probably I was hitting around probably like 2 to 3,000 subscribers a month at one point.
Wow.
But that's because my output was just like, if it wasn't every day, it was like every other day.
Damn.
Now I can't hold myself to that level anymore because
Yeah.
there's so much other shit going on. And it's crazy because I clear some of that stuff up and I'm like, okay, great. Like now I can do it this way. And then something else always pops up and it doesn't allow you to do it. But yeah, I remember I was at 5,000 and I was on vacation with my wife. We were in Tahoe. I believe it was for our anniversary or something like that. We were just chilling. But in my head, I could not stop thinking about ways that I could expand my channel or new ideas that I could use
Yeah, of course.
toward my channel. Now I
Yeah.
I can't
And
do that.
did she call you on it? Was she like, babe, like,
Yeah.
or did you
Yeah.
do you just kind of keep it up there and then like in your mind and you're just kind of like floaty, or are you also talking, saying it out loud?
I'm talking and saying it
Yeah,
out
yeah.
loud. Like there's
That's
a
me.
point that's all I talked about was YouTube, and my friend and my wife hated me because that's all I would ever talk about. My friend's like, all you ever talk about is YouTube. It's like, that's all I ever do.
Yeah.
It's YouTube. That's all I'm doing right
that's all
now.
I think
It's like,
about.
I
What
have
else would I
nothing.
talk about?
Yeah, I have nothing else to say. But it was at that time where I was like, okay, how can I expand my YouTube? What are some ideas? Like, oh, I could start doing live streams maybe, or blah, 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 blah. Or maybe I create this type of content and I can put it on there. Now I can't do that with my channel. My channel's too big now. My channel,
Right.
when I started my channel, I was like, you know what? I want this to be like the next MTV. Like that was my,
Yeah.
I want it to be like the next MTV. I can't do that now. My channel's too big. Everybody's there for the reactions. If I don't post a reaction, nobody watches it and it hurts my channel because the algorithm doesn't push it out. So anybody who's listening to this and wants to be a YouTuber, when you don't have a whole lot of subscribers, figure out where you want to take your channel and make sure you push it that way. I mean, I'm sure I could do it now.
Right.
But I'm going to lose a lot of subscribers and I'm going to lose a lot of viewers. And it's basically, even though I have like 38,000 right now, it's going to be like rebuilding a channel again because you have to put in that time and that accountability again with that new content.
Do you think it would be? Yeah. No, I know you've thought about this wager. Like, do I just rebuild or do I?
I've thought about it for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
A long time.
Man. Well, I feel like we should find a,
I just do want to,
way.
I do want to say real quick though, to any of my viewers who are listening to this right now.
Definitely.
I'm going to bring you guys something new regardless. These are two for like the OG, like Taylor Roberts fans who
heck yeah,
like just like me spewing my bullshit. I'm going to bring you guys something new and awesome at some point, whether it may not be reactions anymore. It's going to be something else, but I will bring you some sort of engaging entertainment content in some way.
Heck yeah.
So,
and you know what? All the stuff you've done is there.
Exactly.
It's there, and the real like fans and supporters of people want the creator to be fresh and healthy and inspired too. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, I think Logic's a great example of that.
Oh yeah.
And his fans, how he relates to them. Heck yeah. Well, dude, how would you like to close?
Oh man. I don't know. I've never closed a podcast before. I guess if you're
I had
listening,
an idea.
what's that?
I was gonna say you can say the thing you're gonna say, and then we'll count to 3, and then we'll both just make a beep, a short beep sound together.
A short beep sound?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I was going to say, if you're listening, I don't know where you're listening at or whatever, if it's on YouTube or if it's on, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, let us know your thoughts.
Share it with a friend.
Share it with a friend.
Or listen with a friend or spouse or,
Yeah.
Remember?
Whatever. Of course, we'll be bringing you more content in the future.
And engage with us. Like, hit us up. Say, oh, I'd love to hear you talk more about this. Or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Let us know in the comments if you want us to expand on anything we listen to on this one. And thanks for listening to our first podcast session.
This has
really
been
appreciate it.
Loopy Human with Christian Chamberlain and
Taylor Roberts.
All right, so 1, 2, 3.